My name's Mark, and I'm one of the Zen teachers in our group. Our group's called Zen Ways. We're based in London, here in the UK, but increasingly these days more online and worldwide. So Zen, just to remind ourselves, Zen is a school of Buddhism, comes from Japan, and is now making its way, or has been over the last, I'd say, 100 years or so, gradually making its way over into the West in pieces, bits and pieces. But going back from Japan, it traces its roots into China and then back to India, where the Buddha was alive. Zen is a school which emphasizes meditation, or really what you find when you practice meditation. So Zen, the word Zen literally means meditation. It's related to the Sanskrit word jhana. Jhana is the word the Buddha would have used for meditation. So emphasizing meditation, particularly sitting meditation, but not exclusively. And it's really about what you find when you meditate. So the Buddha had various teachings about what he found, but it was very encouraging of anyone who took up practice, Buddhist practice, to look for themselves, not to trust him and his findings. In fact, that was pretty much his last words. Don't trust anything I've said. Look for yourself. Find out for yourself. So Zen emphasizes sitting meditation practice for inquiring into this nature of reality and finding for yourself what we would call the truth, or the what is beyond that which we see on a superficial level, like to look deeply at the nature of ourselves and our relationship to the universe. That's really what Zen is all about. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about today was about the what happens when we look at this dimension of ourselves, the truth of ourselves, but from an energetic perspective. So underlying all of Zen is a view that our body is an energetic phenomenon. What do I mean? So most of the time we think of our body as a thing. It's a physical object that we have, or maybe even own. It's something separate, solid, fixed, a kind of possession, our physical body. It's a kind of possession. I mean, when you actually look at this and think, what do we own possession? What is we and separate to our body? That already leads us to a kind of, what does that make any sense? But anyway, that's the sort of, if we haven't really looked at this and examined it much, that's what we sense. Our body is a thing, and it's something that we have. And many of us maybe secretly wish that it would never change, And if it does change, it's a source of dissatisfaction or even frustration, Yes, it can change in positive ways, like we get stronger and fitter and, hairstyle changes and, we get wiser. But I think, that's fine, but a lot of us have this sense of, I wish my body was, 21 years old and it would always stay that way. And maybe it's not us, but certainly culture has this view of the body as, if anything beyond 25, we're in a long, slow decline, possibly not even slow. And the decline is a source of a lot of angst, very difficult. We want to stay strong and healthy and beautiful. And I think these days it equally goes for men and women. There's especially, with this kind of selfie culture, right? Like social media, taking pictures. It's insidious, this view that we wanna portray to the world, that we're young and strong and beautiful. So then along comes change. Our body changes. Inevitably, things happen. We get sick. We get injured. We get old. And of course, the ultimate of all of it is we die. when this inevitable change happens, the changes that we might value as negative, when these inevitable changes happen, what's our response? Well, if we haven't done too much looking into all of this, then typically people's response is they get upset, they resist, and because of that, they suffer. So we're going to relate this a little bit back to the story of the Buddha. When he was born into a very upper class family, you could say. It was a ruling family. His father was potentially a prince, maybe a kind of leader, and he was given a very coddled upbringing. And then as he started to come of age, and his father said to him, right, you're going to need to take over looking after this kingdom when I die. You need to go out and have a look. So he went out with his driver, looking around the place. And there's a famous story of him seeing, perhaps on the same journey or perhaps on a number of different journeys, he saw someone who was sick, who was kind of like really ill. And then he saw someone who was very, very old and hobbling along. And then he saw someone who had died. A body was being carried on a stretcher towards the funeral pyre. And these kind of three sights, someone who was sick, ill, someone who was old, someone who died, really shook him up. And he also got upset. He resisted and he suffered. Will I get sick? He said. And the driver said, yes, we all do. Will I get old? He said. And the driver said, yes, we all get old. And then, will I die? And the driver said, yes, everyone dies, and it's just kind of like, oh, wow, mind blown. What the hell does he make of all of this? Well, one of the consequences of this is that he felt suffering. And as he began to look more deeply into the truth and the nature of his self, his relationship with the world, he came up with this formulation that we call now the Four Noble Truths. So he sat and looked and had a kind of big realization about how he was perceiving the world previously, and then kind of waking up to a new perception of things. We call in Zen Kensho, which means seeing your true nature. And after that, he came up with this formulation which he kind of discerned, right? The Four Noble Truths. He talked about dukkha arising. Now, dukkha is the Pali term. That's the language that Buddha spoke back in northern India. And it literally translates as stuck. And often it was used in the context of a wheel that had got stuck. It's a metaphorical, symbolic word that these days we would translate as suffering. But it more has a connotation of something getting stuck, something that's like dissatisfied, feeling like angst, not quite right, or maybe even very not right. So this kind of suffering arises. First noble truth, suffering exists. Second noble truth, suffering exists because we cling. We hold on. We want things to go our way, not the way things are actually going. So we like things and pull things towards us, and we dislike things and push them away. That's basically our sort of nature. The third noble truth, there is a way to end this suffering. I mean, it's a radical statement. There is a way to end this suffering. And then the fourth of these noble truths, he laid out a path for working our way through all this. We call it the Eightfold Path. Like a list of, well, it's a kind of maybe different facets of a single jewel, or like, different dimensions of way of practice. Now, this relates very much back to our topic of today about looking at our physical body and seeing it as an energetic phenomenon, and why that's important, or even where it gets us. So, for those of you just joining, we started off saying that many of us see the body as a thing, as a possession, you could say. It's like we own this body. It's a thing, and if it changes, it's a source of suffering, often, Yeah, sometimes it changes for the positive and we barely notice. Sometimes it changes for the negative and we're all up in arms, Oh, it's terrible. So we see this body, if we're not careful, we see it as a thing which doesn't change, or we don't want it to change. But actually, if we start to switch our view around and see the body as, instead of a thing, as a process, that helps a lot. So a process, it's designed to change. A process is something that's in flux. It's always transforming from one thing to another. A dynamic collection of processes, always changing. And that's what the body is, of course. Like when we look at it with any kind of detail, it's obvious. The body is a dynamic connection of processes, always changing. And if it didn't change, we die. That's it. Pure and simple. Now, my background is in physics. I did a degree in physics and worked for some years as an academic. And I could tell you, modern physics agrees with this view. When we look down at the atomic level, at the material that our body is made from, in fact, all of our world is made from, at that level, there are no things. At the quantum level, we talk about this kind of duality between particles and waves. Sometimes a material behaves as if it's made of individual particles, but then that same material in a different circumstance can behave like it's a vibration, a wave. And the best way to understand this is to think of material as being vibrations, energy, that's confined to a space. That sometimes it looks like a particle being a fixed ball, but actually that's not the truth at all. Material is vibration. It's energy. It's interactions and it's transformations. Sometimes at the quantum level, you can't really tell what particle is until it does something. You can only tell what it is through how it interacts, through how it transforms. And I think that's a great lesson for how we can see ourselves and our physical world, right? So we have all these labels and these definitions, and that just leads us towards this view of it being fixed. It's a thing. Technically, we'll call it reify. We take something, a concept that's changing, and we fix it into into a thing, right? Yeah. So our body is not a thing. It's a collection of dynamic processes. It's not a static object. It's more like, you could say, a river of energy flowing through time, I think. It's a river that's flowing through time. Yeah, I think that works. There's flows that come off this way or that way, but there's this kind of continuous change. Now, if we think of our body, if we perceive our body as supposed to be the same all the time, or we get annoyed when it changes in a quote negative way, then of course we fight the change. We suffer. We suffer because we hold on and we resist the way things are. We want things to go our way. That's what suffering is. The difference between what you want things to be and how things really are. But if we understand that change is, change is an absolutely essential, fundamental property of existence. Change is natural. Then we can relax, I think. And the Buddha says suffering exists, and suffering exists because we grasp. But number 3 here, he said, there is an end. There is a way to bring the suffering to an end. And that's when we stop resisting, when we relax, when we let things change. And we learn, in a sense, how to live life gracefully, how to get old gracefully. We're not getting old desperately wanting to stay young and do everything we can to pretend to ourselves and everyone around us that we're still young. And we spend as a culture, right, we spend so much money and effort on trying to stay young. And of course, we want to do things that are going to help us to stay healthy, look after our body from a physical, mental point of view. But the gracefulness is the flowing as a river, flowing through life, allowing things to change when they do. So you could say that life is basically like a dance of transformation and change. And what is a dance? Well, I don't know. Like, you look at a few people on the dance floor and you say, what is a dance? Well, it's a series of movements, but it could be spontaneous and it could be planned. It's not the body. It's not the idea. A dance is energy. It's energy flowing. Now, you say that to me. If I told that to myself when I was studying physics at university, I probably would have walked away. I think I would have struggled a lot to get my head around this, because in the physics point of view, energy is not a dance. Energy is very defined, and it has a formula and the maths about it, all that stuff. But I think now that I come to see it from this perspective, a few years later, I think in physics we use the word energy as a collective term for lots of different kinds of energy. We've got mechanical energy, chemical energy, electrical energy, nuclear energy, potential energy, all sorts of different kinds of energy, and they have maybe different equations associated with them. But we could see also, as in this way we're using the word energy here, in our context, energy is also a collective term. We have the energy of the dance, but we also have the energy of growth. We have the energy of interaction, relationship. We have the energy of, awareness. We have the energy of intention. All sorts of different kinds of energies here. And our body is a vessel in which all these energies can just, swill around and come out. So to see the body as energy is to literally see change. Or in the Buddhist term, we could see impermanence. We look at our body in any kind of detail, we see impermanence. Nothing is ever the same for any length of time. And this here is our doorway towards what they call emptiness. Now, I think emptiness, you might say, in the Buddhist terms, is like a technical term. So the Sanskrit shunyata, English emptiness. So it doesn't mean, it's not the same as looking at a cup and saying this cup is empty, or this cup is full of tea or whatever. It's not the same as that emptiness there. It doesn't mean nothingness. So sometimes people have this idea, Buddhism is very negative, very nihilistic, you could say, because it's always about talking about everything is empty. Well, that's not really what it's talking about at all. Emptiness, as I say, is like a technical word, and it means something that is not independent and fixed. So you could say that emptiness represents, it's empty is absent of a fixed independent nature, of something which is kind of separate, and you can say, oh, this is it and this is not it. The nature of reality is emptiness. The nature of reality is change. So when we look at our body, we see impermanence and emptiness directly. We see that nothing, no part of us has a fixed essence or, existence separate to anything else. There's part of this dynamic set of changing processes, transformations, all linked and interlinked. And even to the point where the edge of our body, well, where's the edge? I don't know. I'm breathing. The air that was inside my lungs, you could say, was me. And then I breathe, then it gets exchanged into the blood and oxygenates my cells. That's definitely me, surely. And then my cells release carbon dioxide, which then comes out through the blood into my lungs, and I breathe it out. Now, at what point does it stop being me? I breathe out this air. Maybe the part of the air that I breathe out is part of me. And then, of course, the air that I'm breathing out contains my words, right? The voice. My voice. Now, is that me as well? So you're hearing my voice, and then it goes into the computer through the internet, comes out of your speakers. Is part of me coming into your room? Isn't that incredible? I'd say yes. And part of you is coming into my room as well through our collective presence and joining here on this platform, joining in. So we're this interconnected, interdependent set of changing processes. Where does the breath come from? Breath comes from the air, the atmosphere, which actually comes from plants and trees, the oxygen we breathe. We eat the food which grows in the earth. The food can only grow because it receives warmth from the sun, so therefore the sun is part of this. It's me and the sun, us and the sun, connected, and we care for other beings, and then other beings become part of this as well. So we have this flow of it. It's like a river of energy, flowing through time. So we could say the body is empty of a separate individual essence or nature, self. It's empty of self. Yet at the same time, it's full of everything. It's full of the sun, it's full of the breath. It's full of ideas spreading around and interlinking. So then we come to this phrase, which in Zen practice we chant in the Heart Sutra, which we chant every time we have a formal Zen meeting. Maybe another time we'll chant the Heart Sutra together here together. But today, just thinking about this chant that we do whenever we come for formal Zen practice, called the Heart Sutra, and the real core of that, the main phrase: form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Form is things, right? Stuff. So we see straight away, you could say that the body is emptiness, and emptiness is the body. And we see it absolutely through examining our body, through just sensing, feeling, experiencing, inquiring into this body we have here. So seeing the body as energy helps us to feel this fundamental truth. There is no fixed me here. There is no fixed me. There's a flow. It's a, shimmering, connected network of causes and conditions. The transformation, interrelated change. So in the energy system which underlies Zen, they imported from the Chinese, you see the body as being not just it's a bit more specific than just a system of change. They talk about a network of energy channels connected to certain organs. So we have our main organs, and then they're all connected to a channel, an energy channel. We call them meridians, which flow through the body. So we have 12 principal meridians traveling through the arms and the legs, and they're moving the energy through the body. So, I mean, as I say, so in physics and biology and things, you talk about energy as a collective set of energies, right? So we could have chemical energy from the food and blood. We have electrical energy traveling in the nerves. And just like that, you know, in the Chinese system, they have different kinds of energy as well, flowing, represented by these energy channels. And I think from just kind of for our purposes, finishing today, it's very nice. They think of the different organs in the body as representing different qualities of what we do. So here in the West, we talk about the brain as really being in control of, I don't know, anger and creativity and worry and all that kind of stuff. We really think of it as a brain-centered thing. Sometimes if we're a little bit more embodied, then maybe we've got a sense of some of the other hormones and systems that come into play. But in the Chinese energy system, lots of these functions are seen as being controlled by our different organs. So, for example, the stomach, it's all about worry, and the liver is all about anger, and then the kidney is all about fear, you know, those kind of things. And so you could say that each of the organs has its own personality, maybe voice, like way of communicating, does through hormones and through changes. And our task our job is not really to dominate our organs, but to encourage a kind of harmony, this interrelationship within our system. So when the whole internal community of our body feels balanced and working well, then the whole mind and body, everything flows nicely. You know, energy flows, and we experience a sense of resilience, vitality. And then the wisdom here is that once we've figured it out on the internal level and our body's doing well, then we can apply those lessons externally. We've got everything going on nice and harmoniously in our body community, and then we can think about our family community, our practice community, and wider society. Yeah. So we learn all these lessons from looking directly at our body. Body is the window or the direction into impermanence. It's the doorway to understand the fundamental teaching of the Buddha, this emptiness, this change, this nothing is fixed. So I think that's all I wanted to just say today. If there's any particular resonances or thoughts, or if any of that kind of sparked off anything, do feel free, just write it down in the chat. I often say at this point, it's lovely to feel like we're part of a community here practicing together. You guys are joining, listening, and I, you know, through the way the thing works is I can't really see you. I can only see you through the chat, and we can only see each other through the chat. So please do say hi, or say, you know, anything in the chat, just to kind of make communication, make touch. Yeah. And just while you're doing that, we're going to finish today's session with a bit of meditation practice. So, yeah, if you've got time to stay on for just a little short meditation practice, arranging your body in such a way that feels comfortable. Sitting up tall and softening your body. So softening your face, softening your eyes. So feel free to let your eyes lower, looking down in front of you, or maybe if you like, letting them close. Either one, open or closed, as you wish. And then letting your face relax, jaw, mouth. Letting your shoulders soften. And relaxing in your belly, your breath. Sitting upright keeps us alert and awake and present moment focused. And then relaxing the rest of your body, encourage us to be soft and open, receptive, calm. So we're going to center our awareness now down into the belly, bringing your awareness down into the middle of your belly, just a couple of fingers width below your belly button. In the middle of your body is an energy center. They call it in Japanese tanden, or if you've done a bit of qigong or tai chi before, dantian is the Chinese word. Tanden in Japanese. Tanden translates literally as sea of elixir. It's the center point of our body's energy system. And if we inquire into the nature of our body from this place, what is this body? What is this field of sensation we have? Is it fixed, unchanging? Or is it changing river of energy? That was the question the Buddha had when he sat under the tree. And then eventually he said, I can't find anything, not one single dimension of my body and mind that doesn't change. But he said, don't believe me, don't just hear my words, look for yourself. Changing feeling of the breath, small vibrations, movements in the belly, maybe a heartbeat. Now, it's very normal for us to get distracted and then get pulled off into thinking about something else. That's just the nature of our brain to produce all these thoughts, and then we get pulled off and suddenly we find ourselves thinking about going shopping later or whatever it might be. So we just notice, we get distracted, and then we come back. We come back to this question, what is my body? Is it my body? So we say that in words as if it's a possession, as if I am somehow separate to my body. But when you put your attention, center your awareness down in the belly, in this place we talked about, the tanden, we're no longer separate from the body. We are in the body. Not that we could be anywhere else anyway. Being in your body, asking, what is your experience of this body? How does it feel? Noticing how the warmth and coolness, the tension and relaxation, the in-breath and the out-breath, the vibrations, movements, they're all flows of energy, currents of energy. And we could also ask, where is your edge? Where is the edge to your body? Is there an edge? There's a surface we call the skin, but then outside of the skin you can feel heat. You can certainly feel that when you come close to someone else who's hot. Outside of the skin there is the electromagnetic energy of your heart and brain, nerves, which is detectable. Outside of your body there are the memories and the influences, the ideas, the words that you've said. And if your skin is not the edge of your body, then where is? Or you could even say, is there an edge at all? And if there's not an edge, then, well, you must be the whole universe, no? Sitting in this emptiness, this flow of change, allowing the moments to pass gracefully. And as we come to the end of our practice time together, let's just sway the body a bit from side to side. Maybe take a deeper breath if you like. Letting your eyes lift when you're ready. We offer the merit of our practice to all living beings. May they all be well. May they all be content. May they all find liberation. So thank you so much everyone for joining in today. As I say, if you've got any questions or anything that's been resonating or anything that's been coming, any requests maybe even for something to talk about next time, just let me know. Jot it, say it in the chat, jot it down, send me a message.